Grab your beverages and turn up your interweb. Solving the world's problems 12 ounces at a time. It's Dudes and Beer.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the Dudes and Beer podcast. I am Chris Jordan, your host. Welcome to episode 194. It's been a wild ride up to now, folks. I'm getting ready to actually go on the road again tomorrow, so next week we'll be live from the road again. But it's gonna be The episode tonight is really interesting. We have a good friend of my wife from online. David Koster will be talking to us from Alaska. He's actually a research analyst for the Alaska Department of Fish and Game, interestingly enough. So to have him on to actually talk about all of the incidents going on presently with the current earthquake that just happened, all that kind of stuff. Then we'll be joined in the second part of the show by Paige Pozzi, health and wellness consultant, to talk about what you can do during the holidays to try and eat a little bit healthier, what you can do to try and change your life into a little bit healthier way of living, and even get your kids to where they're wanting this. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and welcome David to the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right.
Well, tell us a little bit. Not everybody is really familiar with Alaska. It's one of the upper states. It's way up there by its lonesome. But how frequent is it that you have geologic activity on this scale, that you have an earthquake on the magnitude of a 7.0?
Yeah, so, I guess to start, Alaska's a big place, right? So, we actually have these pretty frequently. Annually within the state. But considering that, I'm nearly 1,000 miles from the furthest western tip, that's kind of a long distance to cover. But in our area, this sort of magnitude, I've lived here about 40 years, and I've been through only one that's been even remotely close that's been this size, and it was about 2 years ago in January. But I've never been through one this close to where I'm at in the Anchorage area.
And how long have you lived in that area?
On and off, basically my whole life, about 40 years. I lived in Fairbanks for 4 years. I lived in Seward for a couple summers, and I lived in Maryland for like a year and a half right out of college. So pretty much, 40 years basically.
And in that time, you've never necessarily seen an earthquake. Like we were saying before air, there's some regular seismic activity, being the geology that Alaska is, all that kind of stuff. But you've never seen anything on this scale since you've been there. Was there any kind of advance notice, any kind of warning, anything like that?
No, there really wasn't, and that's one of the frustrating parts about it. And I was kind of thinking about this right after, as we watch all these new aftershocks come in, and there have been thousands of them. It's been relatively quiet. The usual kinds of noise. It's 3.5 earthquakes here or there, over the course of a few months. But it's like all of these thousands of little earthquakes we've been getting since last Friday. And it just started with what felt like a gunshot running through, the building. It was just a jolt, and then the whole thing kicked off. So, but there's no other warnings. We didn't have any foreshocks or any, rumbling or anything like that.
Yeah, and that's what I really found the most interesting. Of course, there have been rumblings all over the Ring of Fire, which Alaska kind of skirts the top part of there. Which is just a huge volcanic ring under the Pacific Ocean. and a lot of tectonic activity. There was, of course, the tsunamis that happened. There have been all kinds of earthquakes in Japan. There have been rumblings all over the place on the West Coast. And just this last year, all of a few months ago, there was actually the false tsunami warning for Alaska. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do, and I remember it because it was issued and it hit a bunch of folks that really probably should not have got it. So, where we're at is about 100 feet above sea level, and Anchorage and the Mataniskosisetna area, so Wasilla and Palmer, we're pretty far above sea level, far enough we don't have to worry about it. And there's funny geology with this Upper Cook Inlet area where, you're really not going to be able to move enough water to cause damage, but everybody has family or something in places that are susceptible, like Seward or Homer, places that are right on the water. So when we get those kinds of things, it's relevant for us because my father-in-law actually lives in Seward, which is about 120 miles drive south of Anchorage. And so our initial reaction is not to head for the hills as much as get on the phone and make sure he's heading for the hills.
Yeah, and I mean we're kind of the same way, living down here in. Well, not so much in Austin, but in Houston, where I'm from, down in Hurricane Central. It's very much you immediately start calling friends, family, making sure that they're all right. Hell, we have hurricane parties because we know it's coming. So we just stock up with beer and food and all hang out at the most secure house that we know for a few days. But
nice.
How has this affected? Because I remember the other day, whenever we connected originally, my wife was showing me some pictures of your route home, and it was absolute destruction. It's the pictures that you've been seeing on the news, folks, where the entire road outside of Anchorage is just destroyed. What has it done for infrastructure, for services, for things like that up there?
Yeah, so that's actually super interesting to me to watch this go down. And to make a sort of correction, when I first got the picture, I was told that, oh, look, the highway, and I couldn't figure out where it was. That turns out that main picture we're all seeing, that picture of the totally destroyed road is in fact on the other side of the inlet. It wasn't my direct route home.
Oh, okay.
Main, but it is a main artery from the east to the west out where we're at. But the main highway that connects Anchorage to Wasilla. Now, Anchorage is about 300,000 people, and the Wasilla-Palmer area is about 100,000 people, and something on the order of 20 to 30,000 people commute that one road, and there is no alternate every day. And, it's about an hour's drive. But big chunks of that had major problems. So there's an area probably a third of the way from Wasilla to Anchorage where the ground had just sloughed away, and it took half the highway with it. Wow. And there's several bridges that I was really concerned about. That's always the concern. We had the big earthquake. Are the bridges still there? And they did close one of the bridges, which could have been a disaster. But it turns out that the bridges really weren't that damaged. It was a lot of superficial damage, and where the road had sloughed away, as of I think this afternoon or maybe late last night, they had already had the roadbed put back together and they had it repaved. So, while that one highway is kind of a liability for us out here, away from Anchorage, away from the port, away from services, it turns out it's sort of an asset in this case because the Department of Transportation was able to get it knocked back together and put into service within a few days. So while it was kind of everybody's sort of freaking out, we're going to be able to get groceries and whatever, there's just the one road to focus on to, put that artery back together, and they were able to do it pretty quick.
Oh, wow. And that's incredible because it, like you were saying, as opposed to our panics here, where it's hey, there's a hurricane coming and everybody rushes out to buy water and batteries and all that kind of stuff all at the same time. There really wasn't that kind of time for response in that area, so... Well,
yeah, it happened after the fact, actually, because, normally, like I said, I lived in Maryland for about a year, and we see that kind of stuff. People have bad weather, the snowstorms threatening, and you couldn't go to the grocery store, and you did. The milk was gone, the bread was gone, the eggs were gone, toilet paper was gone, whatever the essentials. Here, you're right, there's no lead up, and so all that stuff was still on the shelves. But I tell you what, like the next 3 days, the stores were busier than I've ever seen them, and it wasn't necessarily people repairing, goods to repair their homes. A lot of it was just getting staples, stocking up on staples. So they did it down to the fact that it still happens,
Sure. Yeah, and because especially with it, unlike a hurricane or something like that, where it's like, whew, it's over. No, you just had a pretty big earthquake, and even with the mild earthquake, like you were saying, if it were the normal 4.0 that y'all get, something like that in the region, it would have kind of been like, oh wow, did you feel that? That was crazy, man. Like, well, time to get to work now. But with it being a 7.0, of course, people are expecting aftershocks, post-quakes, all that kind of stuff. So I can see where with an earthquake, even afterward, there were still people out thronging the stores.
Yeah, and no doubt there were people trying to get stuff to repair and clean up. I mean, it was, I think the biggest right now kinds of impacts people had were that just everything was knocked off, bookcases and shelves, and furniture got turned over, and some people's houses did get wrecked. I mean, there's a few pictures floating around out there where houses are just basically split right in half.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, when I called my wife right after the event, she was on the phone walking back in the house. She'd run out of the house, and she said there's just glass everywhere.
Wow.
And we got really lucky. Our house just as hard as a lot of other people in the area. So, I could just imagine the kind of cleanup a lot of folks are going through, and then of course I'm seeing it all over Facebook. Neighbors, and,
yeah.
Just trying to clean up the mess.
Well, and I know we kind of spoke off air for a minute or two about the huge bell-like sound that apparently resonated through the Earth's crust shortly before this earthquake started, and we were kind of like, who knows what really started that? But as someone that works with fish and game, all that kind of stuff, have there been any ill effects from some of the naval experiments that have gone on the coast, things like that? I know that there were some wild whale beachings a while back that may have been attributed to like the sonar nets that the Navy was putting down for experimentation, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, how often do y'all see wildlife going off like they do in Yellowstone, that kind of stuff, before earthquakes come about?
Well, I don't know that we really necessarily see it. I I think folks definitely were talking about moose hanging out in the middle of the roadways and things like this, trying to kind of keep clear of the trees and so on. And we've got, of course, we've got ducks and geese in our place, and just kind of watching those because they're media. They do their thing. They huddle up. But in terms of any kind of stuff that we would have seen, like wildlife maybe responding ahead of time, I don't know that we were hearing anything about that. I mean, down in New Zealand, last couple of weeks, is it? There's been pilot whale beachings, big time, on their beaches, and hundreds of animals. And we just don't see that kind of thing as much. I mean, I feel like we do, like we've seen it down in Kodiak and those kinds of places. And I just don't think we have as big of a an issue with that kind of thing. And I don't know if it's I guess I just don't know much about it really to speak to it, but that's not a huge thing here. And for us, the big thing is like salmon. It's where people are living and breathing and dying, and that's so seasonal. There's other factors that really play a much broader role in any kinds of issues we have there. But I can't say that I saw or heard or was any kind of indication that there's sort of wildlife response ahead of time. Now, I think that we're seeing some stuff go on, but
and
certainly not ahead of time.
That's what I found so interesting about this earthquake, was that there was zero warning whatsoever, and that's just it's interesting to me. And like we were saying off air, of course, whenever something happens on the scale of that seismic event shortly before this, something's going to pop up somewhere. The pressure has to relieve itself somewhere. So the fact that something happened somewhere isn't a huge surprise. But the fact that other than that we didn't pick up anything else is really interesting. I wanted to thank you so much for taking the time to come on this evening, David. I'd love to have you back on again just to talk about the work of the Alaska Department of Fish and Game, the great things that y'all are doing for conservancy up there in Alaska to keep that place as beautiful and as amazing as it is.
Sure, yeah. If we can make that go.
All right, fantastic. Well, once again, thanks so much for joining us this evening, and feel free to tune in on Facebook for the continuance of the live feed.
All right, thanks.
All right, take care.
All right, talk to you later. Bye.
And, folks, that's one of the interesting things to me is, like we were just saying, there was just no warning for this, and there are all kinds of early warning systems that we have in place. There's all kinds of stuff like that. There's regular seismology studies going on across the globe. So why this was not picked up beforehand is so very interesting. Now we are actively connecting with our second guest for the evening, Paige Pozzi. She is a health and wellness consultant, and we'll be talking with Paige about some healthy ways that you can get ready for the holiday, as well as ways that you can change the way that you think about eating healthy. Eating healthy can sometimes seem like such a burden on our already packed and scheduled lives. It seems like it's hard to do. How are you this evening, Paige? Are you there? I think she's there. I'm not sure. Oh, there she is. Hello. Oh, no.
Sure.
Hold on just a moment. Let me try calling you right back. Having a couple of technical hiccups here. There we go.
Hello.
There we are. How are you doing this evening, Paige?
I'm well. I have poor reception.
Yeah, that's all right. It happens. It happens. We were just having a few hiccups on the line with our guest from Anchorage, Alaska, and I was like, of course we're going to have a few issues. There are just a couple of cell towers down in your area right now.
Yeah.
So, but you are local here to the Austin area. Is that correct?
That is correct. I live near the lake.
Okay, great. Well, I have actually known Paige for many, many years now. We will not belie how many years I've known you, Paige. But I've noticed online that she has gone into the world of health consulting and kind of helping people to live healthier lives, things like that. And I love watching her posts online. You can follow all of her stuff online, everybody. Her handle is @Paige Wellness Mama on Facebook. And in addition to that, Paige Wellness Revival on Instagram. So tell us a little bit about how it is that you kind of got into living a healthier lifestyle, and what do you define as living a healthy lifestyle, Paige?
Yeah, those are great questions. Well, I've always been interested in health. I've my whole life I was kind of seen as the granola girl in the family, and I think I became a vegetarian when I was 16 because Lenny Kravitz was a vegetarian and I wanted to be like Lenny Kravitz. So really founded there. But it didn't last long. Well, it lasted about 9 years. I tried a bunch of different things. It wasn't until I had children, and my children were sick pretty regularly, and I got to see that on a daily basis. And you have a little one, right, Christopher?
Yeah, I have. My young son is about 1.5 years old.
Yeah. So when I had 3 children, and when my first 2, they were just regularly sick, and I had to take a closer look at what we were doing and what we were eating, and make some changes. And so we started taking away stuff that we knew wasn't serving us. Shopping the perimeter of the grocery store is one of the tricks that I have.
Okay.
The aisle section tends to be a little, it can get dicey in there. But if you stay on the perimeter of the grocery store, you're pretty safe. So I started adding more color into our diet and just eating more produce, really. I still eat meat, but I just stopped eating a lot of packaged foods.
Yeah.
And just that stuff that we hear about all the time.
And I can definitely say I have gotten very much into that. Now, granted, I will also admit the fact that I have a few lazy eating habits whenever I come back from the road, and I don't want to cook. I just want to eat.
Right.
And that especially in our go American society, I think is a really huge issue. I myself worked in kitchens for years, so I love the process of cooking. I actually jump most of my Cajun families that I know because they use bottled roux. And I'm like, you don't have 15, 20 minutes extra to make that roux with some love? You're already cooking anyway. Like, how quick do you want a gumbo? How quick do you need a gumbo that you have to use roux out of a bottle?
That's right. It's such a fun process to cook, too, to interact with your food. And I didn't cook. I did not cook until I had kids. And then when my daughter was so colicky and I had to wear her all the time, I thought, well, the only thing I can really do and move around and wear her and be sane is cook. And so I started cooking and interacting with my food, and it's so fun. Yeah, to buy a roux in a jar, no.
Yeah. I don't. And I guess it's because I worked in kitchens for years, and I know exactly how easy it is to do. It's not extraordinarily hard to cook. Now, like baking, that's like chemistry. The other's much more like art. It's interpretation. And I love cooking. I love the basic process of it. One of the things that I started long before Dalbus came about, and we just started juicing again, but my wife and I started juicing shortly after I tried making our apartment kitchen almost zero waste.
Oh, my Lord.
And that was an interesting experiment, and I still follow some of the practices. It's a great thing to do. If you eat chicken, stuff like that, don't throw the bones away. Put them in a Ziploc bag. Number one, it's going to keep them from stinking up your kitchen. But throw them in the freezer and collect them over a month or so, and then make stock out of it and freeze it.
Or bone broth, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Bone broth, that kind of stuff that you can use as bases for soups, and then you don't have to go out and buy canned broth that's like salinated out the wazoo with all kinds of preservatives, things like that, so that it has extended shelf life.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, it's just like small little things that you can do. You can go extreme with like making your bone broth and making all the stuff. But really what I found, I mean, Americans we're so busy. And we're so disconnected from our food. And we're so disconnected from the growing of our food and the preparation of our food. But any small little thing that we can do, even if it's, you know, throwing a bunch of ingredients that may or may not be from cans, you know, also chopping up some vegetables and throwing it in a crock pot in the morning so that you actually have food at night instead of driving through a drive-through. You know, it really can take 10 minutes to throw some food in a crock pot, you know, and that's not interacting with your food. I really do love to, like, put the ghee in and then put the cumin seeds in and do the whole da-da-da-da-da-da. But, I mean, I can't do that every day. I either do that every day or I parent my children, you know? Like, you have to choose.
Well, and now, are your children homeschooled? Is that correct? They are,
yeah.
Okay,
and we are a crew.
If you don't mind me asking, what was it that led to that decision? I know more and more homeschool parents these days.
Yeah. Well, I'm a trained Montessori teacher, so I taught in a Montessori classroom for 12 years. I have my Montessori training from 6 to 12 years old, and I have my master's degree. And, you know, what's so funny is that I really did not. I loved a lot of parts about classroom teaching, but I knew it wasn't where I needed to be and what really was my calling. And so I was kind of like, why did I get this degree? Why did I get all these certifications and master's degree and blah, 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 blah? And now I've discovered that it's because I wanted to be home with my kids and homeschool them. So I just, you know, part of the reason I homeschool is because I have the credentials to homeschool, not that we sit down and do a Montessori classroom at home, but also just because I really enjoy time with my children and they enjoy time with me, and I want to be able to follow their lead of what they want to know rather than it doesn't work in my schedule and my way of being to do the rat race of get them up, get them on the bus at 7 a.m., you know, send them off, and then have them home at 5 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and then do homework, and then do dinner. And that just really doesn't work with me. And I had the choice, and I feel grateful that I had the choice to be able to stay home with them and, you know, and be with them and follow their lead and explore with them and let them be kids for as long as they can.
Yeah, and you know, I'm a big proponent of that. I know my wife misses quite a bit about work and things like that, so she'll probably step in eventually back into the professional world. But yeah, I'm a big proponent of somebody stay at home for as long as you can.
Yeah, and I also believe in everyone doing what they really want to be doing. So people, you know, parents who really want to go out and work and that fills their cup, like, then that's what should be done in a family. So I didn't want to go back into the classroom, and so we just do it at home. And we have a really good time doing it too.
Yeah, exactly. I love watching my son grow and learn. It's one of my favorite things. I twistedly tell people all the time, he's the best science experiment I've ever had.
Right? I totally agree. It's fascinating. Human development is absolutely fascinating to me. And that age that he is, that's a good one right there.
Well, and it's so entirely funny because, like, his problem-solving skills are off the chart. When he was very young, I built him a toy box, just a little box with, like, buttons and switches that light up, things like that. And I want him to follow in Dad's footsteps and be a live EV technician. So he whenever he's in here with me, he's always playing with cables, that kind of stuff. They are not verboten. He has devices that are old and broken that I have given to him that he can turn knobs on. So I built him this portable box with, like, microphone connectors and microphone cables built into it. So it was like the square peg round hole, like times 100. So it's like, now I've created this little monster whose hand-eye coordination is just out of control, and can manipulate things on a very fine level way before he should. It's like, great. He's like picking locks and things like that a long time before he should ever know how to like operate the lock on the child gate. You know, awesome. It totally backfired on me.
Yeah.
But it is great. It is important to do that kind of stuff, especially just as a regular family. This time of year during the holidays, it's hard, even whenever you have time as a parent off work, to want to spend every day with your kid. And it's hard for you to think that, hey, I should spend every day with my kid. But how do you go about instilling these healthy habits in your children? I saw your post the other day on Facebook with of course the hashtag the @Paige Wellness Mama tag there, and it was great to see that whenever you were like, yeah, I offered my kids breakfast tacos and they asked me for a vegetable plate. And that was for breakfast. You know, like, we'd prefer some fresh vegetables. How do you get to a point? I mean, was that something that you of course said as you became pregnant, you began living a healthier lifestyle, and that's when you really turned to a lot of this. But has it always been the case that you have given them that kind of fare?
No, we've really been on a journey together, right? And so it takes time with kids. The media doesn't help because, even children's books, there's the broccoli is the bad character, So
thanks, George Bush. He was our best friend.
Right?
George Bush, the president doesn't eat broccoli.
Yeah, I know. Jeez, please. But, it's all over the place that, that whole thing about vegetables are bad. But the way I talk to my children about it is that, I wouldn't let you get in the car without the seatbelt on, and get on the highway. I'm not going to let you, cruise around and play without your nutritional seatbelt. We talk a lot about our nutritional seatbelt. And what our nutritional seatbelt is really trying to get all the colors in a day. And so it's a little game we play. Now, listen, it's not every day that we win, because they're kids.
Sure.
And they can decide. But I feel like my job as a mom and what I try and do, I don't feel like that's my job, but just what I try to do is just present. And I know that it takes multiple exposures. So, for instance, my daughter doesn't like cauliflower raw. She doesn't like it in soup, but she likes it roasted. And it took me trying all those different ways to figure it out. My son doesn't like. But it's just multiple exposures, different presentations, and it's, having it repeated over and over again. And then the other thing that I really love, and this is part of our homeschool deal, is them taking ownership of their food. So, I'm prepping the food, and my 3-year-old loves to cut carrots and celery. So he'll ask if he can join in, or I'll have them, we bake together and we cook together. So it's just bringing them along for the ride and showing them what the food is and talking about what it does. And then I'm modeling it too. So I was modeling it long before they hopped on board with me. And it's not that we were not eating well and that I didn't try. It's just that they weren't on board yet. So, now these days I'll just be surprised. Like even tonight, I made myself roasted broccoli for dinner, and I had, avocado and tomato, blah, 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 blah. But my son, he ate his whole dinner, and then he started swarming in on my roasted broccoli. And I'm like, geez, okay, all right.
Well, and it is very much the fact of your children are little parrots, folks. They're like tiny little monkeys, and they want to do whatever Papa or Mama Monkey is doing. If Papa or Mama Monkey is playing with the stick, they want to play with the stick. If they see you eating it, it doesn't matter if they have the same thing or not. They want to eat exactly what you're eating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just like you were saying, your son, he's watching you play with all your things that I can't even say the names of. I don't even know that world. But he's seeing you do that, and then he's wanting to do it. So, and that every parent can say how their child is mimicking them. And then when it comes to food, it's the exact same thing. So what you're putting in your mouth, your child is going to see. That's what you're modeling.
Yeah, yeah. And
it can be really fun. Like, one thing that we do is I do these things called salad in a jar parties, where my friends get together and we everybody brings a topping, and then we all do an assembly line and layer the stuff in mason jars and have salads they will keep for 4 to 5 days. So we'll have salads for 4 to 5 days. And my kids wanted to do it. So we do salad bar at home, and we cut up our stuff together and put it in little bowls, and then they go around and they just choose what they want on their salad for the night for dinner. It's just like little fun stuff like that makes a huge difference in their engagement and willingness. And sometimes I just have to prepare myself. Sometimes they'll make a salad and it will look really fun, and then they might take 3 bites and not really want to eat that much. But I just commend them for trying, and we can do it again. So,
I will admit, as a Cajun, my first move for my child's first solid food was, of course, gumbo. It was like, this is pretty close to baby food if you don't put too much roux in it. It's just some mashed up rice with some roux. But I kicked it up a notch, and we went traditional, and I made a rabbit gumbo, rabbit and sausage. And oh man, he was all over it. And to this day, very much the fact of, doesn't matter, he'll try it. And he likes some of the strangest things for a baby, like raw asparagus, all about it.
Wow.
Doesn't like it cooked that much, but you give him just like a raw asparagus sprout, chew it all the way down.
Oh my gosh. That's some good fiber right there. Yeah,
it's really, really interesting, and it's something that I'll never discourage. I became really a vegetable eater much more after I spent years cooking in kitchens, things like that. And once I started doing that for a living, it really became the fact of I really didn't enjoy eating out that much, unless it was a really, really nice restaurant.
Right? Yeah, you become I've had that same experience too, where it's just like, it's actually not really a treat to go out to eat. You know?
It becomes almost more of a hassle.
Yeah. Well, not only just because of the kid, like my husband and I, it's a brave move. We wear our helmets if we go out to eat with the kids, it's like, Lord help us. But the food doesn't taste as good, I don't think. I'm pretty picky too.
Well, and like I said, you really do have to go out. You got to get out beyond the Chili's and the Applebee's, folks, is what I'm trying to say. Anywhere that's a chain, you are getting straight up product, as it's called.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And like you were saying earlier, it's really getting to the point of letting more color into your diet. There's been a huge trend over the last many years. It started with the paleo diet, stuff like that. It's gone to the keto world now. And it's really interesting to see some of these keto recipes where people are making like pizza dough out of cauliflower. Things like that. What do you, as a health and wellness person, think about the keto diet?
I actually don't think about it that much. I don't think about it, and I don't have a strong opinion on it. I feel like whatever works for the person works for them. I choose to keep it super duper simple. And I think about the way that I approach my own diet is that I eat a lot of color. I don't eat a lot of meat. I, eat nuts, seeds, weeds, and drink a lot of water. I don't tend to get into trends because that can just be all consuming, and it can really take the fun out of eating.
Yeah.
So I honestly, as a health and wellness person, I can't speak about the keto because my health and wellness journey is all about just eating fruits and vegetables and keeping it super duper simple.
Eating as raw as possible.
Yeah, raw or roasted. Hey, it's just color. Raw is really great. The live enzymes are fantastic, right? But I say to anyone, as long as you're eating vegetables, go for it. They can't be like slathered in butter or Alfredo sauce. You're really kind of doing yourself in there, probably.
I like all mine deep fried myself.
Yeah, right.
I'll eat a veggie kebab all day as long as it's deep fried.
Yeah. Well, hold on there. But no, I just like to keep it just really super duper simple. And I don't know if that's helpful or not, but it's just, I feel like we can get really wrapped up in trends and whole deal. And it's just eat fruits and vegetables.
Well, and it's, we all remember the food pyramid, right? It's not hard. It's right there. And if you remember, part of the base was not even breads, folks. That was like way up top. That was like, okay, maybe you can treat yourself with some of that. But that was not the base of the food pyramid. That was not the structure of it. Whenever you think it, just conceptualize what we ate for thousands of years. It's kind of like this last Thanksgiving, my mom didn't quite. She. I'm going to be straight with you, folks. She got scared by the news. She got scared by the news that salmonella was everywhere. And don't thaw your turkeys like usual because, you might get salmonella. And it's like, well, number one, if salmonella is there, it's already there. You're not going to, it's not like the frozen tundra. You're not going to thaw salmonella. You know what I mean? This is not an X-Files case. And of course, it took a little bit longer to thaw the turkey, get things ready and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, why'd you do that? And she's like, well, that's what the news was saying. I was like, out of 40-something years of cooking turkeys and us eating them, have any of us ever gotten sick from how you've ever thawed a turkey? Well, no. Okay, then why'd you thaw it a different way? And it's just interesting. I make the point all the time. I have Cajun family that lived well into their 80s, 90s, and they ate gumbo like on the regular. They smoked, they drank, But the difference is they also farmed their own vegetables, and they ate vegetables on the daily, and they got up and they did stuff.
Right. There you go. That is a huge key right there.
Like there. Even in their 70s, it was like, oh, well, let's go pass by Charlotte's house and have some coffee or something.
Right. Yes. They moved their bodies. Yes. It's huge. It's huge. And got a lot of fresh air and a lot of sunshine. But the whole farming thing with the soil, the soil quality is rapidly depleting. And, I say if you can, as much of your food as you can control it. We're not, in my home, we're not in that place. We have an aeroponic garden that we use to grow greens. And we have a soil garden, but we have a lot of deer, so it's a battle.
Yeah.
But as much of your food supply as you can control it,
I've actively wanted to. We have some aquaponic lettuce in the fridge right now. I have personally wanted to set up an aquaponics rig for years, and And do you know anything about aquaponics? It's pretty cool.
No, we had a farm up the road in my neighborhood. It was like a 9-acre farm, and she had an aquaponics area where she grew. It was really interesting, and I wish I had spent more time before the farm went defunct.
It's really neat. Basically, you have like a pond or some kind of holding tank where you have an edible fish, be it catfish, which tend to be a little bit dirtier, but most people make it like tilapia, things like that are really easy to grow and grow rapidly. And basically, the filtered water from the fish becomes the nitrated food for the vegetables. And it creates this, and the vegetables then filter the water that then goes back to the fish.
Wow.
So you're growing fish to eat, and then whenever you get done with that, they become fertilizer that then goes into the plants. You know, like it's just this beautiful, amazing cycle that, you know, we can take advantage of. We can do that kind of stuff. And it's great. You can even set up small aquaponics rigs like in closets for herbs, tomatoes, like you were saying, to have a small aeroponic garden in the kitchen that grows tomatoes, things like that. Is extraordinarily easy nowadays.
Yeah, it is. And that's it. You know, children really, back to the kids part, if you can show a kid that you can grow a plant from a seed and actually let them watch it happen, they will eat that plant. Guaranteed they will try and take a bite out of it because it is so fascinating to them. And I encourage everyone to try that somehow, somewhere in your life, to expose a child to from seed to leaf, you know?
Yeah. Right now I'm really getting to the point where I'm sad kind of that I'm on the road as much as I am. It's great for my family, of course. But number one, my chickens got taken by a raccoon while I was on the road. I was not here to defend them. So they got taken, and my son quite obviously misses them. He goes over and puts his hand on the window and kind of looks around. He used to love watching the chickens outside. But that was going to be one of my first, the whole reason I got them was the whole life lesson of, look, if you steward this life properly, it will give you sustenance. Until the day that it no longer, until the day that it no longer produces eggs, at which point it provides sustenance its last time in the gumbo pot.
It's always back to gumbo. I get it.
Always.
I'm kind of catching your drift here.
You know, it's just interesting to me how we as a society have, within a generation, lost connection with this. We've lost connection. I remember anybody that came to my grandfather's house left with a bag of groceries. Like, he had a huge garden in his backyard. He was always giving groceries out. Couldn't eat it fast enough. He grew so much. And just to see that have gone away from even, and he lived in suburban America. He didn't live on a farm. He lived out in Channelview, like in a cul-de-sac.
Wow. Yeah.
You know?
Wow.
So even in our modern suburban living, we can do this. We can kind of have a return to this kind of mentality. What would you say are some of the first steps that people can start taking to kick that fast food habit this year? As we get ready for the season of resolutions, the season of broken promises that we make to ourselves every year.
Right.
You know,
right.
Faithfully.
I would say let go of the New Year's resolution, first of all. Like,
yes. Come on.
Man, save yourself.
I'm the same way.
Save yourself. But I just think about things in small steps. Like, small steps make the hugest difference over time. So, you know, if you used to grab let's say a Snickers for a snack, which I used to do when I was in college, I would grab a Snickers for a snack. It did satisfy me for like 5 seconds until I had a sugar crash, right? And then got in that horrible sugar cycle, which, that's just the worst. Sugar is the most accepted drug in America.
Ooh, let's do an episode
it really is.
on
It's
that.
like, it's like a recreational drug. It really is. It's such a disservice to us to have it everywhere. But I think just small changes. So instead of a Snickers bar, grab an apple or an orange or a banana or something like that. You know, just replace this for that. You know, if you drink a Dr. Pepper or whatever soda you drink, if you drink that, replace it with water. You know, just one time a day. I mean, I'm just talking like once a day, make a simple change and see how long you can make that change. And over time, you'll keep adding on to the changes, and, you know, you'll have a new, healthier lifestyle. But the deal is, so, you know, the food that, like, back to the soil and we don't have access to, or we do have access to healthy food, but it's just hard to get in those servings of fruits and vegetables in a day. You have to, I mean, our bodies have to have 9 to 13 servings, 7 to 13, 9 to 20 if you're an athlete. You have to protect your cells from the oxidative stress that you're incurring if you're an athlete. And a lot of people think it's just, you know, the macronutrition that serves the athlete, but really the micronutrition really does serve. The phytonutrients and antioxidants are huge in blocking that oxidative stress that can be so damaging to an athlete. So I'm going on a little trip here.
That's all right.
But
Go ahead.
we can't eat. I mean, I'm home all day with my kids. I'm into health and wellness, and not every single day do I eat all the right servings, right? Some days I choose to go hiking with my kids for 5 hours, you know, or whatever, and I choose not to prep. But you have to find a way to supplement what you're not getting. And my tip for that is, when you're choosing something, you know, to supplement your food with, it has to be food. Like, look at the label, make sure it's a nutritional label if you're getting something off, you know, and also look for that there's research done on the product, you know, whatever it is that you're choosing to use. That's really, really important. So you don't want to just get something that's going to go in your mouth and out, you know. If it's not bioavailable, if it won't stick in your body like food is supposed to do, and food is supposed to get into your cells, then you're doing yourself no good. But so small changes over time, coupled with, you know, you're making sure that you're getting all of your nutrition somehow while you're making those small changes, can be very, very impactful. And my other tip is just to go easy on yourself. You know, we're getting to that time of year where it's just like, this time of year really drives me kind of bonkers, because everyone wants to make all the changes right now.
That's why I wanted to have you on specifically to talk about health and wellness before the holidays, because like what people do to themselves is sickening. It's sad. Like you literally starve yourself so that you can binge over Christmas, so that you can starve yourself again. You know? And it's like if you just learn to watch some portion size, if you learn to, you can still binge and have a few sweets here and there. It's not going to kill you. You know?
You should have some,
But do you have to be like me and eat a quarter of a pecan pie? No.
Oh, that hurts to even think about.
But do you see how easy I admit to the fact that, I'll eat a quarter of a pecan pie. I tease my wife all the time. I'm like, I don't eat like this when I'm on the road, right? Like, I actually eat pretty healthy. I eat pretty good when I'm on the road. It's just when I'm at home where I don't want to do anything.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what's happening.
And that's just it. It's a mentality. It really is something that you have to check in for in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to remember before you go to bed at night. You know, when those craving times happen, things like that. You know, earlier over the weekend, as we were discussing the show and format, things like that, you were talking about your gut brain and how you changed your gut brain, and I loved the analogy with that. Explain to the audience what you meant by that.
Well, okay, so we have two brains. We have our brain, and then we have our gut brain. And our gut brain is really, we are just the mothership of, you know, tens of thousands of viruses, protists, bacteria, and fungi that make up our microbiome, the collective colony that lives all over our body, but lives mainly in our gut, that serves us. Like, that's where our immunity lives. That's where a lot of our mental health comes from our gut. And so I feed my gut brain. Your gut brain doesn't eat meat, doesn't like dairy. It eats plants. And when I say that, I mean that bacteria and the protists, fungi, viruses, all that in there. That's what they thrive on plants. And so when you give, your body wants what it gets. And so if you're feeding your body a lot of sugar, which, gosh, I did that before I had kids, I would eat every night I would have ice cream before bed. Every single night. I mean,
that's what you call bad, Paige?
Well,
you should never come to my studio. It would be like a den of sin and lethargy for you.
No. Mine might look familiar. I mean, I really did eat a lot of sugar. In 4 years ago, I ate a lot of sugar. But over time, with small changes and more, giving myself more plants, my body started to recognize what served it more. And what serves my body is what my body wants. I mean, your body will tell you, actually, yes, I do like the fruits and vegetables. I do like to eat healthy, I do like water. And if you start just the small changes of putting those things in your body over time, you'll eventually push out the other cravings. It takes so much time, though. That's why we're talking, because January 1st, you can't cut out the blah, 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 and work out, 5 times a week and da-da-da-da-da. You just have to slow your roll, do everything, just choose one thing.
Yeah, work in phases. Don't quit it all at the same time. That's how you end up relapsing. That's how you end up going back.
That's like a crash. Yeah, you'll crash and burn. And find a buddy, find somebody else who's not, gung-ho, as my husband calls, gung-ho-itis is his word.
It is helpful to blame somebody else.
Yeah.
It's their fault. They slipped first, I tell you.
Yeah. But just, I'm really looking at that, drumstick candy.
Yeah.
My ice cream was drumsticks. I loved drumsticks. And then one day I just realized I'm actually not going to the freezer every night to get my ice cream. Like, I've finally trained my brain, my gut brain, that I don't want that. And now I really do have an intolerance for a lot of sweets.
Yep.
I can't max out like I used to. It just feels that the shock of the sugar is more intense on me. But it took time. I mean, I'm 3 years into a journey here, and I'm still learning and still trying new things and still undoing things. Right now, I'm on day 2. What day is it? Is it day 2 or 3? Day 2 of a 10-day. So every month, I don't do this every month, but a lot of months I've done this, probably my 9th time. I just let go of a lot of stuff for 10 days. And so I let go of caffeine, processed sugar, dairy. What else am I not doing? I can't even remember at this point.
Wow.
Coffee. I already said that. But I just don't eat those things. I know, right? I just don't do those things for 10 days. And so this is what I said, like 8th or 9th or 10th time. I can't remember. But the very first time I decided to do this, I sat down with my kids and I said, you guys, Mommy's going to try something tomorrow, and I'm not going to drink coffee. And my daughter, who was 6 at the time, she was like, Mommy, are you sure you really want to do that? Like,
Mommy, I'm scared.
Yes.
She was waking up in the middle of the night in cold sweats.
Yeah, I mean,
with
that morning
fear.
she sat downstairs. She's like, do I want to say hello to Mommy this morning because she's not drinking coffee? But I let it go, and it was, it was hard, but anyone can do anything for 10 days. And so that's another thing that I do. And that even took me time to do that. 10-day cycle thing.
Yeah, just to do quick little 10-day cleanses. Just get off something for a little while. And, because, a little bit of coffee ain't going to kill you, especially if it's black coffee. Stay away from your aspartame and things like that to do horrible things to your body and brain. Quite honestly, I will say, before we started with the zero waste in our kitchen, because that was really like an experiment, I was like, I want to give this a shot, was that I gave up corn syrup.
Yeah. It's everywhere, huh?
Which is soda, which is a lot of your fruit juices, believe it or not, folks. Yeah. Stuff like that. Like real sugar, I'm of the mind of real sugar is probably about as dangerous as real butter.
Yeah, exactly.
Like sugar in the raw actually has some pretty decent amino acids in it that are good for you. You can't use it like crazy. You can't sit there and drink like a cup full of it a day. But to sweeten a glass of iced tea with it, it ain't going to kill you.
Everything in moderation, right?
You drink a Lipton iced tea, and it might be a little bit different, with all the corn syrup and additives, things like that. And that was probably the best thing in the world that I ever did for my stomach. Was to get off of corn syrup. And even now, whenever I slip and fall, and one of my nephews is like, "Hey, you want one of these gummy bears?" And I'm like, I want one of those gummy bears. Give me a gummy bear. I regret it. Like an hour or so later, it's like, oh God, like I can feel it. And yeah, it's strange, but it's good. At the same time, to know that you can affect your diet that much. You can make small changes, and that's exactly what Paige is saying, folks. Baby steps, take small steps toward the goals. As we get ready to kind of wrap things up here for this episode of Dudes and Beer, Paige, what are probably the top 3 things that you should say somebody should start doing to make the first steps, make those first baby steps toward living a healthier life in the new year?
Oh, gosh. Well, I just want to start with, take it easy, slow your roll, come up with a plan, but make it one little thing that you're going to change. So don't bite off more than you can chew. That's a funny pun, right? I think adding one extra fruit or vegetable a day will do your body good. Just one. People will be surprised how little they ate when they're adding that one. They're like, wow, that's my one for the day. But just add one more. And then drink a lot of water, especially in the season. We're not as hot as we normally are. We're not sweating. We're not desiring it, but our body still needs it. So still drink half your body weight in ounces of water a day. Just go for that. Make that be the goal, but hydrate yourself. So those are I mean, I guess if I can only choose 3, that's what I'd say.
Well, and like I said, it's the baby steps. It's the baby steps,
Yeah.
and those are all very simple things. Those are all very simple things to do. It's easy to affect that change in our life. That if you, like you said, if you start regularly putting water into your body, you'll be surprised how much water your body actually loses. As far as water weight, things like that. Because it's like, oh, well, guess what? I don't need to store this like a camel anymore.
Yeah.
You're giving
your
it
day
to me on the
drinking-
regulars.
Yeah, drinking 8 ounce, slamming an 8 ounce glass of water in the morning is a great, easy thing to do. And it will make a huge difference in your day and the way your brain works and the way your body feels and your hunger level and everything. It's just that alone. Drinking 8 ounces in the morning is an awesome way to start your day.
Wow.
Put a little lemon in it, you're good.
Yep. Yeah, and you can buy
show,
you can buy cool infusers. You can buy all kinds of stuff like that, folks. Where as much as people carry their water bottles around, I have one I carry with me all the time. It's just as easy to get one with an infuser where you can throw a couple slices of orange in there, or cucumbers, strawberries, what have you, and then it's not floating around in your water. But you get some great flavored stuff. So. Tell everybody where they can go to keep up with your posts on social media page and to contact you about health and wellness, things that they may have questions about.
Yeah, okay, well, I'm on Instagram as Paige Wellness Revival. So that's, you can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook at Wellness Revival with Paige is a page that I have, or Paige Pozzi, Pozzi.
All right. Well, fantastic. Paige, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with our audience about this stuff tonight. This is kind of the beginning of our holiday season of stuff. We're trying to get our Secret Service investigator on to talk about privacy during the holidays, all that kind of stuff as you do your online shopping, all those episodes. So if you can, please do hold the line, Paige. And we will go ahead and wrap this episode, everybody. Thank you so much to everybody that actively tuned in tonight, especially all of our Facebook audience, Daniel Chancellor, Doug Wiggins, old Elvis Barnett out there, James Shealy, Aaron Knight, Brian Wanawato, Martin Luner. Wow, we got just tons and tons of people out there tonight. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you everybody for tuning in as always. While you're online checking out Paige's stuff, checking out posts from Paige, please do make sure to stop on by dudesandbeer.com. You can check out the news there. You can also check out the Knowledge Vault, where we keep all the awesome stuff about H.A.A.R.P, everything else, things that we talked about earlier tonight. And once again, everybody, thank you so much. Remember, if you can't be good at it. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Dudes and Beer Podcast. To listen to our audio streams or chat with us live, download the official Dudes and Beer app for Android and iDevices, available on Google Play and iTunes markets. For more episodes, content, and information, visit us online at dudesandbeer.com. You can also find our episodes on Breach.tv, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, SoundCloud, iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast service. Dudes and Beer is a proud member of the HC Universal Network family of podcasts. For more about our sponsors and other podcasts on this network, visit hcuniversalnetwork.com. Thanks for listening, everybody, and until next time, drink responsibly.